Well, hello and welcome to TEDxDupreePark TV. I'm so delighted that you are here joining us today. Please put in the chat, let us know where you're coming in from today. There's people watching from all around the world, and we just love to know where our fans are because we want to send you some love, some good juju. We have a fantastic show planned for you today. I know you're going to learn so much from our amazing speakers and sages and team members and everybody who is joining in on TEDxDupreePark. Just to let you guys know, we do have our virtual TEDxDupreePark Dupree Park, not the TV, but the actual TEDxDupreePark virtual version for 2020. And it's going to be December 5th and 6th. And we'll have our tickets available for you to get next week. And you're going to want to definitely be in on that. It's going to be fantastic. And then our in-person event is going to be sometime next year. We're not sure the exact date, but we will be rolling out that red dot and letting you guys know. So if you want to be sure to be on our mailing list so that you'll know about all these different things that are coming up, as well as to see who our sponsors are and get some of that great TEDx merchandise, go to TEDxDupreeParkTV.com and just go on in there and you can get on our mailing list so that you'll know about all this. So joining me today to co-host our show is our organizer. I can't, what's going on with my words today? I'm so excited about our wonderful guests that I can't even talk straight. So let me bring our organizer, Steve Monahan, on to help things get started today. How you doing, Steve?
Hey, I'm doing fine. How are you?
Wonderful. It's a beautiful day in Orlando, Florida.
You know, it's a beautiful day here. This morning it was in the mid 50s. You know, I went for a walk. I actually had a jacket on. So it was nice. And it's about the 60s now and sunny. Just gorgeous weather. It just makes me so alive. I just love it, you know.
That's certainly something I miss about Atlanta is the fall. I love the fall. I love the spring.
Yeah.
I love all the different seasons, but especially in Atlanta, fall and spring.
Yeah. I lived in Florida for 10 years and we came from the north originally. And so that was the one thing we missed, the change of seasons. I remember the first year we had Christmas in Florida and it was about 82 degrees out. It was just kind of weird. It's kind of funny how your mind gets hooked up on the seasons and stuff.
Yeah, that's true. And what do you do when you get tongue-tied like I'm doing today? TEDxDupreePark TV, TEDxDupreePark, everything sounds so similar, and I get all tongue-tied sometimes.
I don't get tongue-tied as much as you. My mind flies, but boy, your mind really flies. So all I try to do is just, if I feel it, I just breathe in and calm down for a second, try to center myself.
I hear you.
Yoga too, and that, people misunderstand yoga. To me, yoga is just trying to center myself, meaning try to actually feel my body from my toes up to my head, because we're so into our head, a lot of us, you almost lose sense of your body. So I'll spend 15 minutes just trying to re-feel myself again. You have to realize when we're starting to get tongue-tied, the brain's going faster than the mouth. So just slow down a second.
That's probably what's happening. So deep breath. Yes. Well, we're going to have some fantastic guests today. I know often you like to start us off with a little story. Did you have a story for us today?
I was thinking about that, but we have so many great guests today and ones that I've been really waiting to see. I'd like to kind of jump into that. One thing I would say is actually today from Colleen Patrick-Goudreau. I follow her website and I got a great, it's kind of a podcast and then she does blogs. And one of them was, and it caught me because it was a great title, Ex-Vegans. Talking about ex-vegans. We're always talking about the vegan, but what about the ex that, so I hope we can talk to her a little bit about that, but there's so much she's got to cover. And there was one other thing she said a few weeks ago. She wrote a blog, or she wrote it and did the blog on the origin of the word animal. And it's from Greek, which is anima. And anima is breath of life, soul of life. And the point was the animals, just as humans, are the breath of life and the soul of life. And we need to always consider that. And she made a point. They were here before us. And they used to chase us and eat us. And now we're eating them. I mean, it's a terrible thing. They're, but what's going on? But her stuff is so deep and broad. I just love it. So, and Jonathan and Anne. So just happy to have them all on today.
Well, we're going to learn some wonderful things. Let me tell you guys a little bit more about our first guest, Colleen Patrick-Goudreau, that Steve is telling you a little bit about already. She's a best-selling author, podcaster, international speaker, and passionista for compassion. Her mission is simple: to empower people to reflect their deepest values of compassion and wellness in their everyday choices. She believes that people want to make changes to reflect those values, but they struggle with how to do it, emphasizing the fact that being vegan is a means to an end rather than an end in itself. She addresses all aspects of living healthfully and compassionately, including eating, cooking, nutrition, ethics, animals, family dynamics, food, politics, social psychology, and zero waste. She draws upon her love of language, etymology, literature, history, film, and culture. And I need to step back and just give you guys a little bit more on Colleen before I bring her on board. And that is that when I began my vegan journey about 5 years ago, it was gratefully that I plugged into her podcast that had been going back even many more years before that to support me. And Steve, last year when you got the license for the TEDx and you said, Gina, would you help me choose a speaker? She was number one on my list. And so with that, let me bring on Miss Goudreau. Colleen, how are you?
Hi, I'm very well, Gina. Thank you so much. And Stephen, good to see you both.
Yeah.
I see you are balancing a kitty there. Who do you have in your lap?
I have a foster kitty. This is Wyatt.
Ooh.
Wyatt adoption with his partner, Walter. And yeah, I'm very lucky, but he just came on my lap, of course, as soon as the video came on.
Kitty cats have a way of doing that, don't they?
Very true.
Now, is that with the Maine Coon rescue? Is that where
yeah,
you're
so I don't know why I always feel like I need to clarify this. They don't only rescue Maine Coons, but that was, I think, the founder's first cat she rescued. So it's called Maine Coon Adoptions. And she pulls from shelters and counties in California that do not have support services for homeless cats. So I kitty cuddle with them once a week and socialize the kitties. And now I'm also fostering. So that's the organization that I work with. And today I have a Zoom call with a prospective adopter. So fingers crossed.
Oh, that's fantastic. I used to do a lot of rescue work, and I know it's a lot of work. It's a lot of joy, though. It's so joyful to be able to help them get a new forever home. And I know Steve's done a lot of support of the rescue organizations. That's a big part of our mutual teamwork and love with the TEDx Dupree Park. Is we're all big animal lovers. And so certainly we were all very excited when you agreed to come on board as our TEDx speaker. So Colleen, I know you are doing so much to seed greatness these days with your new book and your new programs and your cooking classes. We can go so deep, but let me just give you the stage for a little bit here, the virtual stage, to tell us what's on your mind and what you're doing to seed greatness right now.
Just doing what I can, as always, what's right in front of me, what I think needs a voice. So it's been crazy for all of us. All of us have been just, completely thrown off course with the pandemic and lockdown, et cetera. I would say the thing that was the most exciting for me since lockdown in terms of kind of reframing this in a positive way is teaching virtual cooking classes. I taught cooking classes for many years in person, and it's a lot of work. And so I stopped because it's a lot of work unless you have your own studio that people can come to. So offering the classes online has been really gratifying for me. And I know it's really provided community and tools and inspiration for people all around the world. So people can join from wherever they are. And then those are being converted into on-demand classes. So that right now has been a focus, just getting those up technologically. Like there's just a lot of practical work that is required. But it's been really fun. Obviously was really excited about the TEDx event, but that we'll make that happen. So that was a focus for a while in the beginning, but my podcast and my book, I mean, just trying to convey the message that that being vegan is a means to an end, as you said, that what I think people lack are the tools for how to become vegan and stay vegan. And so I just work in all the mediums that make sense for me. And that includes video, that includes audio, and written medium books.
Well, as I said, I'm really happy to have you here. It's like a kid in a candy store because there's so much I could ask. I wish we had more time. But I got your blog article today on ex-vegan, and it really intrigued me because, I know people that are vegan, and there's the elephant in the room. Most times we're that way, but once in a while it slips. And I've had some people, friends that are just great vegans, and some animal lovers like me, and I'm doing it for ethical, but also could sometimes get a little crazy about it if someone falls off the wagon, and not having maybe the same compassion for their fellow beings that we have for our animals. So could you tell us a little bit about that, and maybe save room for, something else, question Gina or others might have?
Sure. So thank you, first of all, for just even reading or listening to any of my work. So I wrote The Joyful Vegan. The subtitle is How to Stay Vegan in a World That Wants You to Eat Meat, Dairy, and Eggs. So the implication is that if I have to write a book on, how to stay vegan, the implication is that people do stop being vegan. And when that happens, the first reaction that I see truly from other vegans is just a lot of, disappointment, sadness. They don't understand. There's judgment. And I just felt I needed to talk about this first in the book. The Joyful Vegan is all about the common threads that I see that we all experience when we become vegan. And I even talk about that expression because I think it's really important to convey, for me, I didn't become anything different. I didn't become a new person. For me, I was already a compassionate person, and I believe most people are compassionate people. For me, I removed the blocks to the compassion that had been inside of me all along. The compassion that's blocked because there's all these messages that we get from the outside, from the industry, from our parents, from our friends, basically from the status quo that wants us to be like everybody else. And so the awakening that we experience becoming vegan is really more about really becoming who we really are, or removing the blocks so that we can really be authentically who we are. So when we struggle, it's not because in my opinion, it's not because our values vacillate. It's because our desire to be like everybody else overrides our desire to manifest our deepest values. And that people might say, well, no, if you really cared, and if your values were really strong enough, and if your ethics were really strong enough, and you really cared about the animals enough, you could never go back. And my argument is we're really underestimating the social aspects. We're really underestimating how we are just social creatures through and through. If we just write that off to, oh, they're unethical. Oh, they lack compassion. Oh, they lack willpower. So I want to get to the bottom of it, because I don't have all the answers, but I certainly don't think it's as simple as, they just don't care. And that's what the Joyful Vegan is about. It's for people to understand that what they go through is what everybody else goes through, that you're not unique. And that also, if this is what happens to us in this awakening, and you can feel, camaraderie with others, well, here's some traps that you could fall into that could actually mean that you would be one of those people to stop being vegan. So it's a way for us it's a mirror for ourselves, and it's also a way to understand the rest of the world. And that's what I try to do. I'm judgmental. I judge. I complain. I'm like everybody else. But at the end of the day, I want to think about this in a way that's going to be helpful rather than just about making me feel good because I'm right. Right.
Yeah. I just love how you always have a larger perspective than, one-dimensional. And I think that's why you're so successful and your blogs are, because you touch on all the aspects of it, not only just the eating, but the animals itself. And as I said, even getting into the understanding what the word animal means. Animal, we're human beings and animal beings. And I always felt that. And I always felt I was odd, somehow that I didn't fit in, that I could see they're the same as us. And even church, I remember as a kid, well, no, they were different. I could never see the difference. And now people are starting to see, yes, they are the same. But it's still, it's still a struggle. So I applaud you for, what you're doing, trying to, reach more with that.
Well, so to your point, I think what you're talking about is, there's a lot to say. Our language reflects our thinking, right? And so we talk about animals as if they're inferior to us. And that comes out in a lot of derogatory expressions that we use. It comes out in our language all the time. And yet we try so hard to distance ourselves from them. And I think the reason we do that is so that we can justify doing to them what we please. Of course, you have to dehumanize and you have to lower the status of anybody you want to control or oppress or hurt or kill. And we do that with animals in so many ways. We have to justify that they're less than we are. So there's nothing wrong with recognizing differences. Other animals are different. A squirrel is different than a snake, is different than a human. That's okay to recognize the difference. What we do then is say, but different is inferior. And so I try to, in talking about language and talking about the way we think about animals and the way we talk about animals, it reflects how we treat animals. And so, I'll say other animals because we are animals too. And so what you're getting at with the word animal is that the word animal is built from the word anima, which means soul. And so that's a commonality that we share with other animals. And yet it's one of the ways that we historically, in both secular and religious worlds and worldviews, we have used the fact that they don't have a soul as justification for treating them as horrifically as we have. So what I'm trying to get at is, even in the word animal, of which we are a part of the animal kingdom, even in the word animal, it belies the fact that, we are all the same and we all at least share that particular thread. So there's a lot to say about how we talk about animals and how that affects, and reflects how we treat them.
Colleen, two things in specific that you mentioned that kind of resonated with me is that you're, first of all, coming from a place of compassion. And I think the other thing, I'll paraphrase a little bit, but I've come to believe that true courage is actually being who you're designed to be, regardless of the social implications, regardless of the roles that we play in life, regardless of the impact our parents, our friends, the community at large places on us, is to be who we're designed to be. I'm curious about your journey getting to where you are now. What was it like for you growing up? When did you move into a vegan lifestyle?
I grew up like everybody else, eating animals and liking eating them. I did like them. I ate meat. I ate dairy. My father owned ice cream stores. I loved ice cream, right? I loved candy and chocolate. We had treats all the time. I also loved animals. I think my story is very common. I often say that you don't have to love animals to not want to hurt them. So you don't have to have been an animal lover like me, and I am an animal lover. I just don't want them to be hurt. And I've always felt that. I've always been very sensitive. Now, I grew up in a family, my parents weren't necessarily like that. They supported me being like that, but I was always called a little overly emotional. My sister didn't like animals the way I did. So in the same family, you can have obviously very disparate people, obviously. But something in me was just very acutely aware that when animals suffered, it was just very painful for me. And so I was very sensitive, and I still am very sensitive to suffering, and I wanted to do something about it. So, typical story, ate animals, didn't know I was eating animals. When I found out I was, I did what I could to not contribute to that, which is not eat them. But I had my own journey. I stopped eating land animals. I read books about how raising animals for dairy and eggs is as bad as raising animals for meat, but I still ate dairy and eggs. So I had my own journey. And when I became vegan, when I really did finally remove those blocks and stop making excuses and really did have a paradigm shift, because I think that's a lot of what it is, I immediately became an advocate, because I immediately felt that if people had the right information and they had someone guiding them, they would make the change themselves as well. And that's what I have found. So I start from the premise that everybody is like me in that they care, they're compassionate, they just struggle with the tools, the practical aspects. And I think that's what's probably made my work unique. I mean, I think possibly is I have never forgotten that I also struggled, that I also made excuses, that I also ate animals. And so I've never forgotten that about me, and it's part of my story. And I think there is an aspect where when we tell our stories, look, we make up our stories, we create our stories, we create our narratives, and we're creating this vision of who we want to be when we do that. We all do it, and we kind of end at a particular way to tell our story, and we say it again and again, and we never really question it. We have to incorporate into our stories things like, I didn't know, I was ignorant, I made excuses, I hurt animals, I flushed a goldfish down the toilet when I was little, and I still feel bad about that, right? We have to acknowledge that we are all on this journey, so that when we encounter someone who's not exactly where we are yet, we can say, I get it, we're just the same. And then they can also feel like, oh, wow, you get me, I can be me, and I can be flawed, and I can still try to do the right thing. So that's really kind of why I keep doing this, is because I get it and I remember, and I want to provide a different way and a different perspective. So that's what I hope to do. And that's what I have found based on what people have said.
Well, you have helped so many people around the world. Your work is amazing. I mean, you were podcasting way before podcasting was cool. What are we, 12 years, 13?
14.
14 years of your podcast being out there. So you were really one of the first.
Yeah. I didn't even know what a podcast was. I just started, like, I put a microphone. I wrote my podcast. My first podcast was about protein. And 14 years later, I'm still talking about protein because
still talking about protein. And I've gone back. I've listened to many. I don't know that I've listened to every episode, but I've certainly listened to many over the years. And I've seen your evolution in the different things that you've gone through. And it's really a fascinating journey, and including spinning off Animology.
Yeah.
Steve, yeah. I don't know if Steve has discovered Animology yet, but that's a fantastic one for word gurus, wordsmiths like us.
Thank you. Yeah. So Animology was a spinoff because I was talking about language a lot in Food for Thought podcast, which is the original. And it turned out it's too much to do two podcasts. It's a lot. But there are a lot of episodes over at Animology that people can listen to. And I'm just now incorporating them back into Food for Thought. But language is the topic of my TEDx talk, because there's so much to say about how we speak, what we say. Words matter. Words really do matter. They reflect who we are, and they affect what happens. And I'm just absolutely fascinated by it. I mean, people ask me all the time what podcasts I listen to. I listen to mostly history and language podcasts. Those are my favorite podcasts to listen to.
Well, fortunately, when I'm asked what's my favorite podcast, I always make sure to say yours. And people say, "Oh, what is that again?" And they write it down. But I tell you, because of getting it, you've allowed us, and including me, to get into your head, to see how you frame things and how you look at it. And I honestly look at it as like it helps me create a shield of armor around the temptation to eat animals, mm-hmm. to eat animal foods. And so that's been tremendously helpful to me from the ethical perspective, as well as from, we're going to talk with Dr. Josh, who's one of our guests, in just a little bit about the health aspects, but I know you dig into all of that in your podcast and much more. I would like to show, that just reminds me, the other night, speaking of how language affects us, I went to my first virtual wine tasting party.
How fun.
Well, I thought it was going to be.
Oh.
Well, what do you talk about when you're in a virtual wine tasting?
Food.
You talk about what food you pair it with.
Yeah.
And after the second or third mention, it's like, this is just a violent event. But I couldn't tell the people there that. I just said, I have to go. Yeah. I couldn't stand it. Yeah. it really affected me.
Yeah. 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 I've done a virtual, the one virtual wine tasting I did, I organized. And it was with two other couples, with my husband and I and two other couples who are also vegan. But what was fun for us is that the two folks at the winery, they were not vegan. And so we had the wine sent to us and I had sent it to our friends. And then when they were talking about what to pair these wines with, I was able to say, because they knew we were vegan at that point. So they were already thinking in terms of what plant foods can we recommend. And you can always tell a good guide in this if they immediately pivot to, oh, I'm sorry, when I said flesh, when I said animal meat, actually portobello mushrooms would be great. Or they say, no, it's really about, you want something smoky, you want something chewy, you want something fatty. When they can pivot to what's really behind the animal product, then you've got a good one. So that's what we did. And they were very curious and very interested in what I had to say about foods instead of what they were recommending. So maybe organize your own next time and use it as an opportunity to expand their thinking around it.
That's a great idea. Hey, before we let you go, I do want to share with everyone this excitement. I'm so excited about your vegan cooking classes, and many of the times have not worked for my schedule, but I am going to do everything I can to be at this next one because it is, look at this, guys, the Joy of Vegan Baking online cooking class with chocolate. And chocolate vegan pudding is one of my absolute favorite dishes. So I think I probably am using the one that I got from your recipes, but I definitely haven't made a chocolate bundt cake, and I have made some chocolate fudge, again, your recipes, but this is going to be good, guys. And so you do these pretty much every Sunday, right?
Yes, this Sunday, we're actually going out of town. This is the first time we're leaving Dodge since all of this started happening. So this week we're skipping, but yeah, you can see they're pretty much weekly. And now I'm about to get the holiday classes out there. So Thanksgiving and holiday baking and holiday cooking.
And for those of you who want to know about turkeys and Thanksgiving, you have to do a Google search, Colleen Patrick-Goudreau on Thanksgiving and turkeys, because it's fascinating. You will never look at Thanksgiving meals the same again. But look at this, kid-friendly meals and air fryer recipes and plant-based soups and stools and just so many good ones. And I know you've already been doing a lot of these during COVID. People can go back and get the replay, right?
Right. So that's what the on-demand classes are. So that's what they can get after the live class. If they didn't miss the live class, they can go get the on-demand. So they get the recipes and they get the video recording.
Okay. And then for those who want to know just more about living vegan, your 30-day vegan challenge is a great place to learn more about that, right?
Thanks. Yep. 30-day vegan challenge just helps you, guides you through all of the typical challenges that most people have when they're making a change, because change is hard. It's not because it's vegan that makes it hard. It's just because we're creatures of habit. So the 30-day vegan challenge is a great way to get some new habits and change some behaviors and change some thinking.
Well, thank you so much for joining us today. And I can't wait to see you on our TEDx stage next year. And I just look forward to continuing to follow all of your work. You touch so many people that I know you touch a lot, but there's so many out there that you have touched and that you have helped. And so I'm just so grateful for your work, Colleen. Thank you.
Thank you, Gina. Thank you so much. Take care.
All right. Take care. Bye-bye. Oh, boy. Today is just an amazing, wonderful show. So many wonderful people. And we got a great start there with Colleen Patrick-Goudreau. You guys have to do some research, and she's not hard to find. Just look for Joyful Vegan, joyfulvegan.com, and her work is all over the internet. So with that, let's bring up our next guest. And also one of my heroes, Dr. Joshua Helman is a Harvard-trained physician who's licensed in 14 states. He has 2 degrees in biochemistry, a bachelor's from Harvard, a magna cum laude, by the way, and a master's from the University of Cambridge, UK. He is board certified by the American Board of Emergency Medicine and American Board of Lifestyle Medicine. His medical degree is from Harvard Medical School and MIT. He is the former medical director of Hippocrates Health Institute, and his areas of interest include toxins, mold, Lyme disease, and fasting. As a plant-based physician, he embraces an integrative approach, including the importance of diet and lifestyle for optimal health. Dr. Helman is currently affiliated with True North, the health center, and its research team based in Northern California. With that, let me bring Dr. Josh on. Hello, Dr. Josh. How you doing?
Hey, Gina, it's great to see you.
Good. I want to add to my official introduction that, of course, you and I know each other here in real life. You lived in Orlando. We were active in the Harbor Club. You've been over to my home many times. We've been out to conferences together many times.
Amazing view from your place.
Oh, yes. Well, thank you. You've been here a lot of times, especially on New Year's and such.
Yeah.
You've helped me so much. And I just remember so many times, you don't eat animals? What? I remember like before I was vegan and you were coming over like, what am I going to fix for Josh? I have no idea. I had no idea how simple it was. And you helped me understand that.
Good.
Yeah. So let me give you the stage and just tell people what you're up to and what you're passionate about right now, how you're out there seeding greatness in the world. Because I know you're doing so many wonderful things to help people. Let me give you the stage and give us a little bit of a lay of the land with Dr. Josh Helman these days.
Thanks, Gina. So I know we only have a couple minutes, but very briefly, I think the thing that is on so many people's mind right now is the coronavirus and basically how to survive and frankly, this may be a little bit controversial, but I think at least in this country, we've missed a huge opportunity to tell people instead of just stay home and just wear masks is start focusing on your health, start getting healthy, because from the data we've seen is that, if people have a pre-existing condition, if their health is not good, they're much more likely to get the virus because their immune system is not well. And so in addition to maybe staying home or wearing a mask or those things is, why don't you start exercising? Why don't you start eating plants, fruits, vegetables, and whole grains that we know can help, all those things can help stimulate your immune system and make you a lot less likely to get viruses and other diseases. So there, I said it. I know it's controversial, but I think there's more than you can do besides just staying home.
Yeah, I'm really glad you brought that up. I've been working with someone that's going to be a speaker, Dr. Ajay Shah. He's a heart physician, and we had something related because I almost died because of mine. But he gets into his whole focus is on nutrition and eating right, and that's I love to see Dr. Sanjay Gupta, I guess.
Right.
He's always talking about washing the hands and the mask. But could you imagine the impact if the doctors, like you said, were talking about the nutrition or the toxins or the molds or what to eat and how to, change, boost your immune system? That would be so important. And it would be such a wonderful time to pivot to that. People are doing it themselves, though. Vegan sales, I have a magazine, and vegan sales have gone up. I just read today in the UK, there's the largest food store there, supermarket, and they are actually setting up an aisle of foods just for vegan. Because now you'd have to go here, there, this aisle, that, there. And so they put it all in one place, and it emphasizes in the mind, wow, this must be important. And it helps people to figure it out. So I just thought if something like that is telling you that this is not a fluke, because people are real. They even saw it in the meat eating, the meat packing plants, how that was causing it. So we're having to piece it together, but it would be wonderful if you were on those shows and really put your mark on something really good to do besides washing our hands.
Well, let me try. And Stephen, I'm glad you brought up the UK because I believe in England, they are actually saying, don't just stay home, but focus on your health. Mm-hmm. So let me give you a specific example of what I'm talking about. There's a gas called nitric oxide. It's just one molecule of nitrogen with one molecule of oxygen. And it turns out we know from research for over the last couple of decades that this molecule, this gas, can stop the virus, stop coronavirus from multiplying. And there was within the last month, there was a research study out of the Mass General Hospital in Boston that showed that basically for patients who are very sick, these were pregnant patients, very sick with the COVID, that they got better with the group that got this nitric oxide gas got better. So the question is, well, how is that relevant to me? How can I get this nitric oxide gas besides being part of a study at the Mass General? The answer is if you eat green leafy vegetables. And when I say eat, I mean chew them. We know that when you chew them, that there are two places in your body that generate nitric oxide. One is in your mouth and one is in your gut. If you chew your green leafy vegetables, you're actually going to be generating this nitric oxide. So that's a reason why people should be, eating their green leafy vegetables. Eat your arugula, eat your lettuce, eat your kale. There's a reason you should be doing this. And there's also, we can get out there, but we quarantined people. What about shutting down fast food restaurants? We know that fast food is is hurting our society, and good luck getting leafy greens at fast food. If there's so many things we could be doing, and sure, I'd love to be out there in the media, and some of what I'm saying I know is controversial, but it's backed up by science. So yeah.
What's another tip or two that people could, your knowledge is deep on the things that that people don't normally hear about, like I said, the molds and the toxins, but what other that we can either avoid or head towards to make us healthier?
Sure. So let me just give you two other quick ones. So we just talked about the gas nitric oxide you can get from chewing green leafy vegetables. Another substance we know that is antiviral is vitamin C. And where do you get vitamin C? Yeah, sure, you can try to get a supplement, but the best form of vitamin C is from fruit. Go eat some whole fruits. So that's number one. Number two, and this is going to freak some people out, but there was just a report in the last week or two that if people go to their fast food restaurants, some of the containers out there have what are these toxins in the containers that, sure, the containers keep the greasy food from, making the container get destroyed. But, for example, if you go to Chipotle, you think that's a healthy restaurant. But the container itself, if it has that PFOA, if it has that fluoride toxin in it, that PFOA toxin gets transferred to your food when you eat it, and then you're eating this toxin in. And there was an article about this just in the last couple of weeks. The point is that this is not on people's radar screen. They're not, and it's really sad that we have to get this out in the media for people to start saying, you know what, I'm not going to eat at these fast food restaurants because I don't want to get the toxin from the container. So those are just two different things you can do. One is eat fruit, and the other is avoid fast food, especially these containers, and start asking what is in these containers and can it be toxic? Because you can't just assume it's going to be safe, unfortunately.
I got to say, Dr. Josh, you are preaching to the choir with me, particularly this whole notion, the lack of information, the lack of substance on what we can do as individuals to boost our own immune system. And you're spot on with exercise, with eating better. And I will say my diet for the most part has been pretty good, but I do eat more fruits than I do vegetables. But it's made an impact on my life. I think I've got a really strong immune system. I stay relatively active, and I've got friends that are overweight, that are obese, and so many Americans are looking for this quick fix. And without a lifestyle shift, the quick fix will never work. So kudos to you for what you're preaching, and I very much am in tune with your message.
That's great, Mike. And yeah, I wish there was just a magic pill you could take and then everything else would get better. Hey, I've looked. It's not there. But it's okay. It's perfectly okay to get there by steps. It's okay to maybe introduce one piece of whole fruit at every meal, or one piece of whole vegetable at every meal. Don't feel like you have to do everything perfect right now. But but the point is, you need to be going in the right direction. And so for so many Americans, they're not going in the right directions. I'm glad that you're there or headed that way. But and frankly, it took me years to figure this out. So I'm very compassionate because I know for me it was very difficult.
Well, one of the things about TED is, these huge, big, earth-shattering ideas. I've long been a proponent of the power of small steps at a time to achieve an overall larger goal. And you have to find ways to reward yourself along the way and enhance those habit-changing activities. So well said.
Thanks, Mike. And the other thing is, people, please do not beat yourself up, because a lot of the things that we're talking about here, whether, for example, with fast food, the salt, the oil, the sugar, those are all super addictive. In fact, our brains are programmed to seek those things out actively. So, and when you cut those things out of your diet, you're going to go through withdrawals like cutting out any other drug. But that's okay, because once you spend a week or two, you get over the withdrawal, you feel so much better. And like for me now, if I go ahead and eat something salty or really, artificial sweetener, what have you, I'm not going to feel good. I'm going to know it. So yes, so there is a light on the other end of the tunnel. And the other thing that obviously is very important is try to find a community. Don't try to do this by yourself. It's a lot easier if you have support at home, your neighbors. And the great thing now with social media is you can find groups. And what I see at True North is people find their own groups to support these changes.
That's a real good point. And to that end, I started several years ago, because you've been interviewed on our show a lot, the Healthy Happy Hour show, and the healthyhappyhour.com is a Facebook group where we talk about healthy eating a lot and need to do it even more. One of the things you just touched on, which was one of the hardest ones for me, as well as I get questions about it all the time, is oil. No oil, no oil. But Gina, olive oil is so healthy, and coconut oil is even more healthy. Tell us the truth about oils.
Yeah, so the quick truth, Gina, is, and people don't want to hear this, that oil is a processed food. It's not healthy. But you say, oh yeah, but there's a study that showed that olive oil is better than eating lard. And yes, it is. So compared to having, lard in your food, then olive oil is going to be healthier. But the bottom line is, our ancient ancestors didn't have access to lots of oil. Oil is so calorie dense. And if you think about it, how do you make oil? For example, a gallon of olive oil, it takes over 5,000 olives to make. This is not a food that we're evolved to eat in large quantities. But our bodies, our brains are programmed to hold on to calories. So the bottom line is, if you're overweight, the last thing you should be doing is eating oils, including olive oil. And if you look at the data over the last 100 years, the people's intake of oils has gone up by a factor of 20 times. 20 times. And also, if you look at the obesity rate, it's much higher now than it was 100 years ago. There are other issues, but the bottom line is, it is not healthy to have oil in your diet, and certainly not in every meal. And the scary thing is, if you're eating processed food, it's in almost all the processed food. So oil is not healthy, and I may not be popular for that because people are addicted to their oils and their fats, but just keep that in mind, that should be a goal, to cut out oil if you're interested in your health.
Yeah, yes. And I know you told me, no, just dry saute, use a little water, use a little vegetable broth for sauteing. And I mostly just dry saute now. I would have never thought of that, but yes. It's so much better and much healthier.
Or if you want like a salad dressing that doesn't have oil, grind up some beans. I mean, I've got some recipes on my website, drjosh.com. I mean, there all are alternatives. And yes, the first time you try it, you're like, ooh, this doesn't have the body. But the cool thing about your body is you crave what you eat. As an example, I crave celery because I eat it every single day. I eat it for breakfast. I mean, and I know that sounds weird, but if you were to somehow be able to talk to our ancestors thousands of years ago, they're not eating anything like what we're eating today. And we need to get back to what we're designed to be eating.
Oh boy. Well, I could live on tomatoes and carrots and a little hummus.
Well, but be careful. Some of that hummus has added oil.
I know. I get the kind that has no oil. So,
Okay.
and when I can, I make it myself. But Dr. Josh Helman, I just call you Dr. Josh because you're just a close personal friend. But thank you so much for joining us today. We could keep you on for hours and hours and just learn so much from you, because we didn't even get into acrylamides and all kinds of other things that you've taught me about, and just so many foods that I need to watch out for. And you're just my go-to resource when I say, how about this one? And so I'm just so grateful to have you in my life, and so grateful to have you on our show today. Thank you so much. Anything you'd like to share with us as we leave?
Gina, thank you so much. And you're right. I need to come back and definitely check out information on drjosh.com, DRJOSH, and be safe out there. Be benevolent to yourself. It is a stressful time. And one last tip on nitric oxide: you can generate more nitric oxide by breathing through your nose. So I always, a quick tip is take 5 seconds. Take 5 seconds to take a deep breath in, and then 5 seconds to breathe out.
I didn't know that.
You can do that almost anywhere you are. Maybe not when you're running a TV show, but live. But basically, and you want to breathe through your nose, because that generates more nitric oxide in the epithelial cells of your nose. So yes.
Fantastic. I love it. I learn something from you every time I'm around you. So thank you so much, Dr. Josh. You take care, and we will see you around.
All right. We'll see you later. Bye-bye.
Oh boy, just more learning and more great valuable knowledge that you can put to work in your day-to-day life that will make it better for you. So we've talked about some ethical issues and thinking about compassion. We've talked about some health issues, and our next guest is going to help us think about how to apply a positive attitude and how to look at the world through a different lens. Another in real life friend of mine, Julianne Sullivan's diverse background gives her a unique perspective as a business culture expert. She's earned a BA in psychology and an MBA in accounting, and she has a designation of CPA. She's an international best-selling author of 6 books spanning life and business. Her podcasts are listened to around the world. It's Mere Mortals Unite. That's Mere Mortals Unite. I love that title. And it's based on finding your own superpower. And she helps business. She also has one called Businesses That Care, and it focuses on what it takes to create and sustain a best place to work. Julianne is also a certified laughter leader. Wouldn't you like to be that? A certified laughter leader and trainer. And she spreads the pathways to more joy through science-based techniques. When she's not speaking, training, podcasting, or coaching, she lives in Pittsburgh with her wonder dog, Joy. Let me bring on my in real life friend, Julianne Sullivan. How's life treating you today, Miss Julianne?
It's great. I like that, in real life friend.
Yes. Well, I'm just so glad that our paths have crossed so many times, mainly here in Orlando.
Yeah, and I'm here in Pittsburgh. It's a beautiful fall day. The trees are turning, which is one of the reasons why I love living here. So I'm getting a lot of gifts today.
Well, you have, like our other guest today, my goodness, you have so much to offer, and 6 books. I knew you were an author, but I didn't know 6 books, 2 podcasts. Let me give you the stage for a few minutes. Bring our audience up to date on what has Julianne excited about life, and how are you seeding greatness today?
Thanks. Well, we are in the midst of chaos in so many different ways. And you have 2 choices, I see. People can either be fearful and frightened and just kind of stay in one spot and not know what to do, or they can take advantage of this time. And you're probably thinking, oh my gosh, how can I take advantage when so much strife is going on all around me? Well, I think it's a great time to be creative. I think it's a wonderful time for businesses to try something new. It's like no one will notice. I mean, barring that it's going to ruin your reputation, whether it's personal or in your organization, with everything that's going on, really no one's going to notice, but it might bring you more success in your life. So I say go out and try it. People know me for being a positive individual. And that doesn't mean that I don't notice what's going on in the world. But what I would ask you to do is to make the distinction of what's going on in the world and is there something you can actually do to make it better? I say go out and do it. And if there is something that you have no control over, then accept that and find something else that you can do to make the world a better place. I've been making handmade cards lately, birthday cards, and I appreciate you cards and thank you cards. And look, I'm not an artist, and some people tell me, and I tell myself, that they kind of look like they're made by a 5-year-old, but people still appreciate that I'm going out and doing that. So I think having a positive mindset and finding opportunities and events that are happening in your life, even if it's the changing of leaf colors, that will give you some positivity, make it your job. There's plenty of negativity out there, right? And the one thing we know from a science research-based thought is that when you do have a better attitude, when you do find things that make you happier, your body responds to that, your heart responds to that, and your lungs respond to that, and your liver and your kidneys, all of the organs in your body really like it when you're feeling better. Now, I get frustrated just like everyone else. I have pity parties like everybody else. They're just short-lived. And for me, I do live with Joy, which happens to be the name of my dog. And I named her that on purpose. But now with practice, I recognize when I start going down those hills and I just look at Joy and say, hey, let's go for a walk. And I get myself outside and I get myself away from my computer and I get myself away from the negative thoughts that I'm having right then that are pulling me down. So it's all about creating new habits, just like they were talking about with food and what you put into your body. And I don't even like to use the word change anymore because people cringe from the word change. So when I work with companies, I use the word challenge. Because if you think of differences, making differences in your life as a challenge, that means you can overcome it. And that's what I'm doing these days to further the success of my life on an everyday basis, and definitely practicing being present. Because the farther you get away from today, the more scary it is. And I can guarantee no matter what picture you have of next week, when you get there, it's going to look a little different. So I use the acronym for fear as false events as appearing real. False events appearing real. And that's what happens when we get too far forward. That's what happens on TV now with 24-hour news. They have to fill the space. If you listen really carefully, most of the time people are giving their opinion about something that might happen. What if you took a little bit of that time and just stayed present? Like right now, I'm in a house with a roof over my head. I'm having the opportunity of being with these wonderful people and you to share something that I've learned that might work for you to make your life better, as it has made my life better. I've got my wonder dog Joy down there. I've got a refrigerator full of food. I could go on, and that's what happens when we stay present. So when you're thinking of making changes in your life, these new challenges you have, spend a little time being more present and really feeling what you have in your life.
Well, I love what you said, and it's so needed. I guess about 5-8 years ago, I read Eckhart Tolle and The Power of Now.
Right.
And that's his whole emphasis, is to live in the present moment. That is the only moment there is. And I follow Stoicism, and Marcus Aurelius, that was the emperor of Rome during the Antion plague, which was 100 times worse than it is. And he had to deal with that. And his one thing, which ties back to what else you said, is he said there's only two things in the world. And so this was his number one, is to understand there's the things outside that you cannot control, and there's the things that happen to you inside that you can control. And so no matter what happened, you still have the freedom to make the decision, how will I react to it?
Right.
If the plague is going on, we can't change that. I mean, we're positive that we can change anything. But the truth is, no, we can't change everything. But we can always change how we react to it. I forget the guy, that he survived the concentration.
I was just
it was the same thing.
Yeah, his attitude.
He got through that, and others died just by that mind flip. So what could you give for some people that really understand it? They kind of get what you're saying and what you're saying here, but how do they take the steps towards that?
My first recommendation, and I use this all the time in executive coaching, is to make those steps really small, right? As humans, because we feel so strongly about ourselves, we almost set ourselves up to fail by saying, I'm going to do this. It's kind of like becoming a vegan, which I became this year as well. It just so happens. But first I would give up bread, and then I gave up cheese, and then I gave up eggs, and before that I gave up chicken, and before that I gave up beef, right? It was a journey. I didn't wake up one morning and say, oh, I'm just gonna give all this up, because that wouldn't have worked, right? And so I ask people to start with noticing, being what I call deepening self-knowledge. Keep that deepening self-knowledge growing, so that you can tell when you're in a bad mood, when you're frustrated, when you're angry, when you're just feeling off. Get to the point where you can notice that and then do one action differently. I don't care if it's get up and move into the kitchen because you're in the living room, or go for a walk, or purposely look at something that makes you smile, like a picture on your wall or a memory. You force yourself to have a good memory, whatever it is. I have a tattoo on my wrist and it says be. And I did that on purpose, because when I get lost, I just have to look at my wrist and it reminds me to just be. So that's my recommendation. Just look for one step to take in positivity, and there are a million different activities you can do to do that, but make it small and then notice the difference.
Right.
And celebrate like heck.
Yeah, I know. And it is the small steps. When I finally became aware, now, like, I'll walk outside, and before I just walk out and I'm still thinking in my head, but now I walk out and we planted some new trees, and I'll go up and touch the leaves. And so it takes me I touch them and I talk to them. I mean, it sounds crazy, but it's the simple little things like that. We're looking for these big things that we've got to come. It's just that, or just stop and pet your dog. And people can do that anywhere.
And it's interesting because in business, it's the same as it is in your personal life. It's those little moments that you change. It's the moments where you have a meeting, whether it's remote or it's, when we all get back to work again, whether it's virtually or not, but you start a meeting and you don't get into work. You get into, where's everybody at today? Everybody share one thing that they're feeling grateful for. Everyone share a kudo for one of your colleagues. It's even that small step in a business connects people on a level that they've never been connected before. And people who are connected are more loyal to each other. And it really gives you the impetus to do your best, whatever that is, whether it's gardening or getting more sales. It's interesting because especially now we're realizing something that I've been teaching for a long time is we're humans. We're humans at home. We're humans at work. We're humans at our places of worship. We're humans when we volunteer. And people want to be acknowledged. People want to know they have value, and people want to feel connected. Everything you can do to grow that connection in each part of your life enriches not only your life, but the people that you're connecting with. And if you expand on that a little bit, like I said, like in business, instead of always talking about business, one activity that I've done through the pandemic is to go into companies and do a 30-minute focus on what can I change right now to make me better, my colleagues better, my workplace better, my family better, my community better, my world better, because I'm a pebble in a pond kind of person. And it's amazing. People walk away and say, wow, I only ask people to increase it 1%. And everyone can do that. And then they report back and say, what change did you find when you improved that activity you chose by 1%? And again, by sharing, then not only do they get to reiterate how that improved their life, but other people get to hear it too. And someone else within that group is going to say, oh, okay. Just like what Gina does when she talks about being a vegan and how much better she feels. And over years, I kept hearing people say that, and I would try something new. And honestly, for me, the biggest thing was, what the heck am I going to eat? And now it's, oh my gosh, which recipe am I going to make tonight? Right? So it's a process. Everything is a process. My favorite poster in life has always been, life is a journey, not a destination. That's a mindset. I'm going to keep getting better every day at X, at not letting politics get me down, at finding ways to be more creative while I'm at home. All of that is a mindset. I have a great mentor, Steve Wilson, and he always says that he teaches things that are simple, but they're not easy. They're simple because they're not difficult to do, but you, me, each of us individually has to make the choice to do that on a consistent basis. And one of my favorite words, you're going to love this, Mike, for this period right now is grace. We need a lot of grace, not only for the rest of the world, but for ourselves as well, because we're humans and we're going to screw up.
I get the sense you and I are two peas in a pod. I think we could go on the rest of the afternoon talking about impacts on my life and things that have changed your life. There's a grace and a compassion that beams out of you. I've really enjoyed our conversation. One question that I have is how COVID has changed your business. I gather from what you said, you are still occasionally giving in-person events. Is that workshops? Is
Not
that still
now.
happening?
Not
No?
Nope.
Okay.
No. In fact, again, what I've done right now is I've gotten creative.
Mhm.
I've done some activities I've never done before. One of my fears, those future events appearing real, is that the little amount of social gathering that I do at a social distance as the weather turns cold here is going to disappear. So
Yeah.
what am I going to do? Well, I spoke at a conference, and at that conference, they had an online gaming company that did these games, these virtual games with groups. And I thought, that looks like so much fun to facilitate other people having fun. So sometime this month, I'm going to train to be one of their game hosts. And that's how I'm going to get through the winter, right? I'm going to sit in a chair. I'm going to help you have fun, and I'm going to get paid for it.
Good for you. It's one of the things you touched on, and I've used this phrase before, but to me, adversity, it's an incubator for innovation and positive change. And so many good things do tend to come out of some of the worst times in our life. I know that I have learned and grown, and a lot of people have. So well done. And thanks so much for being on our show today. You've been remarkably impactful for me. I'd love to talk more sometime.
Oh, we definitely will. And like I said, I'm not going to do that for the rest of my life, but it'll fill a niche that's needed for me.
Yeah. Awesome. All right. Thanks, Julianne.
Thank you.
Wow, so much creativity. I've been watching you grow and watching your podcasts over the years and just getting to know you better. And you've been such a joy in my life, and I've enjoyed getting to know your Joy, your doggy Joy. She's such a sweetie.
Yes.
And, I love what you do with the companies, and I think that's going to be a lot of fun. That's just so great to be able to pivot like that and say, hey, what can I do? What do I enjoy? What can I do with the talents and abilities that I have, using your voice, using your mind, using your ability to articulate and communicate? I think that's going to be really terrific.
Yeah, it'll be fun. I have a new online class going on. I'm doing some new webinars for a company. I've always got, I'm like an octopus. I've always got 10 things out there, and until things move to wherever they're going to move to, I am not bored and I'm not sitting still.
I love that. Well, tell folks the best way to get in touch with you and what you might be able to do for them.
Well, the best way to get in touch with me is to go to juliannesullivan.com, and all of the other pertinent information is at the top of every page. You can also Google Julianne Sullivan. You'll find me everywhere. And what I can do for you is find a way to operationalize the culture you would like to see in your business. And better cultures keep employees longer. They're more productive. They're more creative, which means everyone is more successful and your customers and clients are happier. Who doesn't want that?
Exactly. That's fantastic. Well, thank you so much, Julianne, for joining us today. And I look forward to continuing to see you around the web and the interwebs and the different places that we continue to run into each other. And fortunately, we did meet digitally. We met online originally, and we had a relationship before we even got together in person. And then when we got together in person, we're like, oh, we're big fat. It works out so well. It is so seamless. Will we one day not even say in real life? You made that point of in real life friends, because I haven't met Colleen in person, but certainly she's a friend. So I don't know. Maybe that term will go away one day, and we'll just all be connected.
Well, I really appreciate the opportunity, and you and I are like souls in that, because you're like an octopus too. You got all these great and wonderful. I'm going to do a plug for you. Video Rockstars is just amazing. I've learned so much, from the most simplistic to the most technical, because you hang out with that guy, Terry Brock.
Who is also one of our TEDx speakers. And,
yeah.
Oh, well, thank you so much. Yes, you were one of our original stars on when we first got Video Rockstar started. You jumped right up and you said, yes, I want to get some feedback and
Oh,
be
man,
evaluated
that's
here, how I'm doing. Think
that's-
about how your video was back then, though. Oh my gosh, from here to, it wasn't bad then, but you're even so much better now.
Oh, absolutely. That's just been a wonderful group to be a part of. And, I suggest to people, when you get part of these groups, don't get overwhelmed. Like sometimes I don't see Gina and those people for a month or two. But I always say whenever I pop back in, it's like, oh, okay. And I learned something new that I'm ready for. Some of the time I've been to one of their sessions and they'll have somebody like our friend Warwick Marion and my head just blows up.
Mind blown. Exactly.
Good information. But thank you so much for the opportunity today. It was
All
delightful
right.
for everybody.
Well, Julianne, you take care. I will see you around. All right. Well, let me bring back Steve and Mike, and we will wrap up the show today. Thank you guys so much. Thanks to our producer, Marcey Walsh, and to our social media marketing maven, John Cloonan, and to I call him the casting director. He's also our speaker manager for TEDx Dupree Park, and that's Randy Stukes, always making sure that everybody shows up for this show and that we know what we're doing, or we pretend we know what we're doing, and it works out pretty well. But you guys, was that an amazing show today or what?
Good stuff.
It really was. I mean, I keep saying that, but really good stuff today. Really. I enjoyed it. Really enjoyed it. How about you?
Oh, I loved it. I can't imagine Dr. Josh and what a pedigree I guess he has.
Yeah.
The degrees, MIT, Cambridge, Harvard Medical, and so down to earth, so personable. Julianne and Colleen, all very operating from a base of compassion. Very enlightening.
You're the common thread with them all, Gina. I mean, that's really nice.
Well, it's so great that we have this show that we can share these wonderful people that are in our lives. I know some just amazing, wonderful people that it's wonderful to have this show and this platform. So with that, let's say goodbye to our TV audience today. You guys, if you enjoyed the show, please share, comment, let Colleen and Dr. Josh and Julianne know as well. Let Steve and Mike know that you enjoyed our show, and let us know if you'd like to be a guest on the show one day. If you have some wonderful information to share with our audience, we'd love to hear from you. All right. Take care, everybody.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.